Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Farming Simulator 22 how-to video. Today we're going to take a kind of a revisit look at field rollers. But before that, this video is brought to you by Bad Habit 99. Thank you for being a farm baron. So I was over here on field 33 on Elm Creek, and I was setting up for a seeding video. It's going to be coming into the channel very soon, so definitely keep an eye out for that. And part of that was coming through the field and having a section of plowed ground, having a section of spaded ground. Since we learned in the subsoiler video that the AgroSim subsoilers provide a different ground state than the Kuhn subsoiler, I have now an AgroSim and Kuhn pass on this field. We also did a pass with a power harrow, a traditional cultivator, a shallow cultivator, and then finally a disc harrow. And the net result was a field with alternating stubble tillage and cultivated states. Here at the very end, we have a section of completely untouched, harvested ground also. And all that's going to be set up for the seeding video. Well, part of the seeding video is I wanted to run across some rolled ground. So I took a roller and I rolled across the bottom of the field down there. And I got some interesting results specific to this stubble tillage. I was getting a result I really was not expecting. So I thought, you know what? Maybe this is worth its own little visit in a video. So let's take a look at the ground states of this particular field. Field 33. We have, as you can see, plowed ground. Inevitably where we've plowed. We've got cultivated ground. This is where we have our spader. This is where we have our Kuhn subsoiler. This is where we have our traditional cultivator. Then we have stubble tillage. Now, stubble tillage, this is where we have the AgroSim subsoiler, the power harrow, the shallow cultivator, and the disc harrow. That's all providing us stubble tillage. Now we have something very interesting also. Between cultivated and stubble tillage, we have little strips of seedbed. And where the little strips of seedbed have come in is where I had overlapped the AgroSim subsoiler on cultivated ground. So I had a little bit of an overlap here, and now we end up with this seedbed. Over here, I overlapped the power harrow on the subsoiled Kuhn ground, and we get a little bit of seedbed. I don't know if the texture difference is coming through. That's cultivated, that's seedbed, that's stubble tillage. And then finally, we have a little strip of seedbed where I overlapped, oddly enough, a shallow cultivator on top of cultivated ground right here. Seedbed. Was not expecting that in the least, but that seems to be the behavior we're getting, at least with update 1.1.1.0. Now, when we roll the ground, I was expecting to see seedbed on plowed ground, on cultivated ground, but to be honest, I was not expecting a complete total texture change on stubble tillage. And that's what we're seeing here, is we're seeing a complete and total texture change on all of the worked ground textures other than harvested. So of course, rolling harvested ground is not going to give us any benefit whatsoever. But it really was interesting. The behavior we saw, or I saw, at least I thought it was interesting, that a roller basically puts the exact same texture down across all of the soil states: plowed, cultivate, and stubble tillage. Now, how does that play into things? Well, we know that certain types of field work do and don't produce certain types of weeds. So we know plowed ground produces no weeds at all. So we can plow and then roll and then have our seed bed. We know that spaded ground leaves a cultivated texture. It's supposed to turn up large stones, which we have here, which a roller cannot remove, as we can see right there. But we still end up with this rolled seedbed. Here we have subsoiled ground. We do have large rocks, but we have stubble tillage on the agrosims. But if we roll it, we get seedbed. The coon cultivator, or coon subsoiler, same thing. We get large rocks, mixture of large and small rocks. We get our seedbed. We still have rocks. Power harrow, we know it provides no rocks at all. And we roll it, and we get seedbed. But power harrows are supposed to generate lots of weeds. But we've seen that we don't end up getting weeds growing out of stubble tillage by itself. Cultivated ground produces small rocks. The small rocks that grow, that come up, not really grow, but come up out of the soil, can be pushed back down with a roller. So we end up with a nice rock-free rolled ground. A shallow cultivator and a disc harrow produce no rocks, but are supposed to be weedier than any other ground. And we can get rolled seedbed, right? Now, let's fast forward to tomorrow, and that's going to be September, so a whole month will go by. And let's see what our weeds look like across the various ground states: plowed, cultivated, stubble tillage, both rolled and unrolled. The month has gone by, and we have weeds starting to grow, and I position myself right here, directly over top of the tractor, for a reason. Got something very interesting going on here with respect to our weeds. I do have crop destruction enabled. Let's go take a look. Crop destruction is turned on. And if you see, we do have weeds where our cultivated ground was, except, interesting enough, directly in line with where our tires were on our tractor. We have no weeds growing where our tires were for our tractor on both passes through the field with our roller putting down the rolled seedbed. I was not expecting this in the least. Not at all. So, as expected, we have no weeds growing in plowed ground. We have no weeds growing in rolled seedbed on top of plowed ground. Not surprising. We have weeds on cultivated ground. Not surprising based on what we've seen before. We have no weeds on stubble tillage. Here you can see where we overlapped and got seedbed. We have no weeds there because we were overlapping. And as a result, technically we should have gotten stubble tillage. We have no weeds on our rolled stubble tillage. And way over here, we have no weeds on our harvested ground at all. So it still seems when we run these tests, we're getting no direct weed growth on stubble tillage ground. We're not doing anything else to it. We're getting no weed growth. I rolled it. I continue to get no weed growth. I know I've had comments. People say, well, I've planted and I get weeds. We're going to get to that in a planted video. I think I know what's going on. And we're going to demonstrate that. But direct stubble tillage ground does not seem to produce weeds if left untouched. If rolled, it doesn't seem to produce weeds. Cultivated ground seems to produce weeds, and anything after you cultivate seems to produce weeds, with the exception of where you've driven, oddly enough. So maybe if you are seeing weed growth and it looks weird, maybe it looks a little thinner than you might expect here and there, it may be corresponding with where your implement or vehicle's wheels have been on the field. Now, another comment that I want to address is with respect to the weed percentage. The weed percentage is, I would say, not the best way to govern how much weeds you have, because the weed percentage is looking at a very, very specific spot that you are standing in. You see that we're standing at 50% weeds right now. Let me move over here to where I have some tire tracks. Oh, now I'm at 20% weeds. Move over a little bit more. I'm at 18%. If I stand over here by the edge of the field, we're going to be at 25%, right? If I walk down here to where we are well away from those tire tracks, we're much closer to 50%. If I stand right here on the edge, we're 0. 1% weeds. So it really depends on where you're standing. 14% right when I started to move. So the percent of weed I wouldn't use as utter gospel, if you will, for an entire field. It's looking very, very specific at where you are. And as you move, that weed percent changes as you move. So it's going to be representative of exactly where you are. But what I find really, really interesting is these clear tire tracks, paths, that correspond with exactly where our tractor was when we drove through this field, when we were rolling it. You can tell exactly where we were. And I thought that was really interesting, and I thought it was worth bringing up in a video. It might help explain some things that you have maybe seen in your own gameplay. I thought it was very interesting that when we are overlapping two different types of field work, stubble tillage or things that produce stubble tillage over things that produce a cultivated texture, we are getting this third state of seedbed, and that looks completely different than a rolled seedbed. So I thought that was a very interesting item also. And really that is kind of the point of this particular video I was wanting to make, was kind of to revisit the field rollers. I know when I did the field work video, or the rock video, sorry, I basically rolled over top of, I think, spaded ground or cultivated ground. But I don't think I actually rolled over top of stubble tillage. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. That was a while ago. But I did think it was very interesting and worth a mention that regardless if it's plowed cultivated or stubble tillage, when you roll it with a field roller, you're going to get seedbed. And it seems like weeds do not grow back where you have driven on the field when you're doing that rolling. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of the video and what have you seen in your own gameplay? And like I said, keep an eye out. We will be doing a video breakdown of all of the base game seeders and how they work across all of the various soil types in the very near future. So until next time, happy farming.